Frieza and I got history. And if you don't know who Frieza is at this point, do you even know Ball? Cause this silver, golden, and black dragon stick is the pinnacle of villainy in Dragon Ball. And all it took was basing him off of Barbara from Shark Tank.
I'm enthusiastic about the product, but I'm not wildly enthusiastic about you.
Because if you were to try and highball being forced to sell your own planet on Facebook Marketplace, Frieza won't just brutally bend you over, he will just casually wipe out your entire race. Oh, but don't worry, he'll be sure to install a new shed and resell the planet to you for higher profits. After all, he owns 1,500 properties. But not only that, but he was also considered the final land shark villain of Dragon Ball. And to this day, everyone still remembers how they felt about his absolute superiority over everyone in the universe. Which of course includes the entirety of the Z Fighters. Like, they were shitting bricks when they first met this man. But Frieza isn't a bad guy. He's just a businessman. He probably gave out maternity leave to all of his employees after forcing them to work for him. But how about now? Would Frieza still be considered the final villain of Dragon Ball of all time in modern Dragon Ball? So Frieza, the emperor of the totally not narcissistically named Frieza Force, low-key owns multiple solar systems like he's an over-glorified real estate agent. And though he is a dictator with a lot of power and influence, and is low-key sadistic to the point where he massively enjoys taking people's homes to build a Walmart, he is also super powerful. So he doesn't actually need to give himself a bodyguard. He could just force them to submit to his will through absolute superiority. But unfortunately, a purple Miller Lite didn't really like the existence of the Saiyans. After all, they failed to get him a purple pillow mattress because they are greedier than Wario. But Frieza isn't exactly against this idea either, because low-key, even though the Saiyans are his most powerful asset, they are also his most dangerous and show the potential of rising up to take him out one day, thanks to the legend of the Super Saiyan being born. So he blows up their planet, with the exception of Vegeta, hair transplant guy, and these other randos who just die somewhere along the way because they're mid as fuck. Oh yeah, and I guess Goku got away from the planet thanks to his schizo dad, but I'm sure that won't be important later. I mean, we could just completely ignore the fact that these space pods probably have a GPS tracker installed in them, so one of them going casually outside the entire scope of the Frieza Force, yeah, I'm sure that will be fine. But cut to the present day in the Namek Saga, aka how in the fuck are these green magical beings so fucking useless? And Frieza wants to become immortal. No, not that guy. I mean literally immortal, not like immortal, just so that he can rule his Frieza Force forever. And honestly, I gotta give him props for wanting to rule his entire empire for his entire life, because that seems like it would be a miserable job after a while. Guess he has no plans to retire on some beach somewhere, just a permanent land shark with no end. I guess everyone has to have a hobby. But something else to know about Frieza is that he isn't exactly the type of guy to get his hands dirty himself. He would much rather send someone else to do his bidding for him. And this is why he has an entire chair to haul his lazy axiom-ass self around, with henchmen who are infinitely weaker than him just because he likes being the polite but sadistic negotiating boss man. And what is ironic about this is how this is the very reason why Frieza started losing ground in the Namek Saga in the first place, because he ignored Vegeta, so Pui went after him and died. He ignored Krillin and Gohan and sent the Dorothy after them, so Frieza fought her and she died. Zarbon only ran into Vegeta on complete accident, but at least managed to knock him out so that they could extract information out of him. But they only had a Saiyan Saga level Yamcha NPC watch over him, so he died, which gave Vegeta the opening to throw the massive balls of their dragon across the African savannah and sink underwater like he's on some Terminator shit. And then Zarbon finally manages to track down Vegeta, but this time, Vegeta has been healed after nearly being killed, which totally won't make him stronger at all, Frieza. So they skirmish for a bit, and Zarbon gets a 6th hole put into him. So finally, with his entire elite force basically dead, Frieza finally decides that he's had enough and decides to pull out the big guns. The Ginyu Force. Because he hasn't learned his lesson already about handling shit himself. But I guess to be completely fair, he didn't quite anticipate the arrival of some man in an orange jumpsuit coming to kick all of their asses. Like, let's be real here. If Goku didn't show up, this absolutely would have meant a win for Frieza. Like, they were completely cooked. But instead of that being the case, with the help of Goku, the Z Fighters are able to create an opening that allows them to not only defeat the Ginyu Force, but also retrieve all of Frieza's balls, while the password to access the balls gets airdropped to them without him even noticing. And just like that, Frieza loses his entire chance at being an immortal. Oh, and also Vegeta low-key killed every one of his soldiers on Frieza's ship earlier, so it is quite literally just Frieza left to deal with everyone on the planet. This shows very plainly how Frieza is the type of guy to save himself as the queen in chess, the literal last man standing before unleashing himself against a foe. And even when he does that, he still prefers to prolong the situation further by slowly revealing his transformations, which just once again shows how sadistic this real estate agent is against squatters.
What are you doing?
But as is a common trend in the Namek Saga at this point, this just allows everyone to periodically keep getting stronger and stronger and take on every single one of Frieza's forms. First being Vegeta, who can somewhat hold off the first form of Frieza. Secondly, Vegeta in green skin, who can actually overpower second form Frieza to force him into his third form, which low-key nobody could actually stand up against. But you know what? Frieza was bored, so he decided to bump it up to his final form, at which point Vegeta attempts to hack the server and Zenkai Boost cheat his way into being able to fight on par with Frieza. However, it is to no avail, because Toriyama patched that shit, as Frieza would be the one to hold all the cards and torture Vegeta, until his lover, Goku Buddy, shows. Frieza, you kind of look like a dildo. You know what, Vegeta? I am sick of your shit. You have single-handedly killed all of my soldiers on this planet. Do you know how much life insurance I'll have to cover? And if you don't want the massive debt of covering the life insurance of every Frieza soldier on the planet, then you should consider subscribing to the Super Kami Jacob channel. So Vegeta dies peacefully, taking his hubris and McDonald's reward points with him. Vegeta, you fucking bitch! So Goku and Frieza begin sparring. And I mean, this random orange jumpsuit guy is somehow doing better than literally everyone else. So I gotta give him credit for that at least. And for a while, he and Frieza are just allowed to have a holly jolly old time. At least until Frieza finally decides to kick it up a notch once again. And it is at this point that we are introduced to the terrifying reality that is a loan shark locking the fuck in. Because everybody suddenly realizes that if their star player is getting fucked in the anal, they will be too. Just give him 5 more minutes. But Goku still has more cards to play, such as the good old reliable. So he low-key smashes Frieza with a giant ball at maximum power, But even despite this move nearly taking out the entire planet, Frieza manages to survive. And so, Frieza officially starts crashing out and finally decides to stop playing with his food and just finish the main course already. Jane, you're early! But killing the Baldy from Baldy Basics in Education and Learning made Goku so angry because he was almost finished with learning his ABCs. So Goku decides to take on the mantle of learning via the Leapfrog learning pad and begins beating the shit out of Frieza. And frustrated with its level of alphabetical bullshit, Frieza decides to nuke Planet Namek on a Saiyan Saga level scale. But because the orange jumpsuit man is used to escaping tight situations, he manages to defeat Frieza with his own hubris and escape Planet Namek thanks to the Geiyu Force's spaceship. But Frieza is a businessman, so his giant beer belly got in the way of him escaping unscathed. I mean, also ignoring the fact that he literally had succumbed to his hubris again, and Loki got blown a bit. But luckily, the Frieza Force is so advanced that they managed to repair him using metal parts that they had acquired from Facebook Marketplace. So like a modified car, Frieza heads to Earth to finish his fill. But unfortunately, the gender studies major, the #1 up of the average business school student, pulls up. And Loki cancels Frieza's ass on Twitter, which normally wouldn't have affected him, but one of those parts installed in him was actually a Neuralink to Elon Musk's Twitter account. So Frieza, within the course of like 2 episodes, went from the grand final boss of Dragon Ball of all time to getting bitched by the performative male who doesn't even realize he's wearing a woman's jacket. And with a humiliating loss such as this, it honestly seemed like at this point that Frieza was finally done with completely in the story of Dragon Ball, and there was just nothing else to do with him. And sure, he showed up occasionally in cameos and in non-canon Dragon Ball movies, but he was always usually reduced to nothing more than a retired real estate agent. But even then, the popularity of Frieza could not be denied, and the potential for the Loan Shark to rise up above the masses once again could be tapped into anytime. But the way they decided to do it was probably in the worst way possible. So as we know, Frieza was brought back in Resurrection F to fuck my life and everything I know and love. I mean, to be fair, the Frieza Force was literally completely cooked without this Loan Shark being there, because cooler is not cooler, and not a single person was capable of replacing this absolute menace to society. But apart from this, let's be completely honest here. Frieza, Orange Jumpsuit Man, and everyone involved in this movie and arc were some of the worst possible things to happen to Dragon Ball. Because first of all, Frieza isn't nearly as strong as Goku, so he decides to train for a few months in order to match and beat him. But despite Frieza having lost on Namek primarily because of his stamina issues and hubris, while pondering for 20 years in his cocoon, he didn't decide once to think about that being a central reason for why he lost in the first place. Instead, he just lets his hate boner take over like it did against the performative male and rush into battle the literal second he thinks that he is capable of taking out Goku. However, there are multiple factors that he failed to take into account, such as the stamina drainage of his ball, and secondly, the fact that Vegeta was capable of taking him out as well, which honestly, if Frieza didn't even have the stamina issue, he might have been low-key cooked anyway if Goku and Vegeta decide to team up and jump his ass. And thirdly, which he can't really predict, but Beerus being there, single-handedly making his biggest leverage card, blowing up the planet, completely useless because Whis can just reverse time. All 3 of these factors combine to defeat Frieza as a failsafe after failsafe after failsafe option just makes the entire story feel tensionless. Though there is one element to Frieza's character that they keep in, which I actually find really amusing, and that is how he literally tries to recruit Vegeta into the Frieza Force. Even though this man literally blew up all of his monkey brothers and tortured him to death with back shots, he will still not miss the opportunity to at least try to capitalize on the potential opportunity. Frieza is the literal definition of you miss the shots you don't take, because even though logically Vegeta obviously wouldn't take the job, Frieza still likes the idea of having a strong warrior at his side that he can use while he sits in his VIP lounge chair. And Frieza has mastered this art so well that for a second, he low-key has Vegeta considering it. If only Vegeta didn't go through hundreds of episodes of character development before this, he may have actually been convinced. But yeah, apart from this, the characters learn nothing from this entire movie. And they actively need to make Goku dumber just to drive some tension for about 2 minutes until Vegeta comes in to save his dumbass. Resurrection F did nothing for the story, and it will continue to be a constant thorn in my ass. Yeah! How does it feel, bitch? After Frieza was put into the ground and sent back to his cocoon, somehow without his Facebook Marketplace parts, the Z Fighters suddenly fall into a dilemma because Bubble Yum's fat ass decided to go into hibernation before the Tournament of Power. Because why would we actually utilize Majin Buu's character? So being a warrior short, what else would they do but to recruit Frieza into the Tournament of Power? So Goku pulls up, releases Frieza from his cocoon, and this is where Frieza low-key begins to regain his aura. Just ignore the part where he was killed previously like a squashed mosquito. I mean, the literal entire environment changes the second this man is released. He is a pure businessman. And if I'm being completely honest, this is the point in the story where I actually start to like Frieza again, because it feels like his character is back to where it was before. Frieza, as we know from way back in the Namek Saga, is the type of dude who likes to use people. Only now, he has adapted his strategy from pure superiority to sadistic, polite, and charismatic manipulation while understanding his own position. Whatever opportunity this man can land, he will do, because you miss the shots you don't take. Even though he was known to betray his own universe and Loki got killed because he was a sadistic businessman, he will not back down. And I honestly gotta respect that. But with Frieza failing to land his internship at the Fraud Universe, he begins fighting in the Tournament of Power with the Z Fighters. And he fights for a little bit to quell his fighting entertainment heart from being cocooned for many years. But that quickly ends, and he mostly just lets everyone else do his dirty work for him while he just watches the show. At least with the exception of monkeys, bunnies, the Lorax, and the final left-hand masturbator of the tournament. Oh yeah, I guess he also low-key trolled Frost for a little bit when he eliminated him, but I low-key just feel like this is just another prime example of Frieza emotional manipulation. And sure, Frieza isn't exactly the strongest in the Tournament of Penis, but what he has been practicing for the past 20 years in his cocoon was being a national Call of Duty trash talker.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flop my BBC out on the table.
And yeah, he did get his ass beat on a consistent basis, being sent into near Grim Reaper levels of comas multiple times, but he was committed to the bit and never faltered for even a second. He will be the worldwide leader in rage baiting his opponent to death. And you honestly just gotta respect it. He was even the primary reason why the universe was able to win against Jiren in the first place. Because even though Frieza absolutely despises Goku, he is smart enough to understand when he needs to bend the knee and actually help out. And if it wasn't for him and his silly little antics, Universe 7 would have been cooked. But Frieza is still a businessman, and he further cements that role in the Broly movie, being the cuck chair VIP lounge overlord. This time, Frieza didn't actually spend his entire time relentlessly training just to instantaneously get revenge on Goku, but rather building himself back up from the ground up and making sure that the Frieza Force could be remade stronger than ever. Because the entire task of taking out Goku once and for all was a daunting one. So Frieza might as well just take a gap year and focus on his mental. Even though the ideal therapy session for Frieza is probably having wet dreams where he pictures killing Goku over and over again, like, who hurt you, bro? But while he's in the process of rebuilding his empire, some green bitch and her orange elderly assistant suddenly discover a non-Earth propagandized monkey on the secluded planet New Jersey. So Frieza decides to take him, along with his off-the-grid dad with no portable electric fan, under his wing to convince them to join his empire through the power of giving them proper breathing clothes that don't give them rashy balls. But now, Frieza sees an opportunity, because instead of trying to fight Goku and Vegeta himself like he did last time and get bitched, why doesn't he try out his new Pokemon? After all, he's also trying to get taller to become more imposing in the Frieza Force, but the orange jumpsuit man and the McDonald's receiving a hairline guy, like the villains they are, get in the way of his noble quest. So to defend himself, he sends the green Costco monkey after them. And this skirmish lasts a little while, as the grass-type Pokemon is actually an adaptable one, leveling up as the battle goes on. It gets so bad for the orange jumpsuit monkey and the McDonald's receiving hairline monkey that they need to unleash their full power just to stand up to this guy. But finally, it seems that the Pokemon has begun reaching its limits, until Frieza remembers something critical about the Saiyans. As long as he can rage bait them with something low-key dramatic, then he will be able to astronomically increase their menace to society levels of power. So he does this by killing Broly's off-the-grid dad without an electric fan, showcasing him like it's a show and tell. And now, Broly the grass-type Pokemon has evolved into a hay type. And even with the power of both the monkeys gaining up on him simultaneously, it is futile, because even the full power of both of their blasts combined are nothing more than a means to delay his commute for approximately 2 seconds. Well, honestly, not even. Like, let's just overpower that shit instantaneously. But there is something that Frieza wasn't aware of when he released the green starter type Pokemon. What he didn't notice when it transformed into the hay was how the hay would not only be harmful to his opponent, but potentially himself as well.
What are you doing? I am the mighty. Don't say it! I'm an intrepid booty nigga.
So while Frieza endures this ass-beating compilation for a full hour and somehow doesn't receive a concussion, the monkeys see and do a fusion dance. And they have combined their criminal orange jumpsuit and McDonald's receding hairline cells into Ronald McDonald Jita. And though this sounds goofy, this is exactly what it takes to take out the haystack Broly. So instead of the monkeys getting butt-fucked, it is now the hay-type Pokemon that is once again getting spanked. And there isn't anything Frieza can do but watch. Not from his VIP cuck chair, but from the wall he created on a Saiyan Saga level scale. And unfortunately, as Frieza's plan to defend his 2 Dragon Balls begins to fall apart, so does the part of being able to wish himself to be taller than Vegeta when the green bitch and old guy decide to give Broly an Uber back to New Jersey. And I mean, you could argue and say that this was probably better than his current situation, but come on, let's be real here. After all the David Lane fitness influencers came from New Jersey, there are definitely some scientists down there just waiting to experiment on the next buff gym bro. And after this, Frieza just kind of goes away for a while, likely doing more Sims life recreating of his Frieza Force, until eventually, off screen of course, he decides to finally lock in and train in the time chamber in order to not only catch up to Goku and Vegeta, but completely surpass them both. I mean, this man has become so powerful that when he steps out of the time chamber, or wherever he was training, he gut checks the current strongest being in the entire universe, then briefly uses the power of his overwhelming girth to cause him to get Thanos snapped away, because his body could no longer adapt to being that freakishly strong. And then he just decides to dip. No longer primarily hellbent on just getting revenge, but simply showing off his superiority and maybe one day being able to capitalize on that superiority in order to get Goku and Vegeta to do whatever he wants. And honestly, if that was the primary reason why he decided to dip instead of just killing both of them, that would honestly be very in character for Frieza. Because what you need to understand is that this man went from being the final mafia boss to becoming eggplant fodder. Then he came back just to learn nothing and get bitched all over again. And then he came back again. But he finally learned that he wasn't the most superior being this time and actually adapted accordingly. And then he continued to maintain that same strategy until he could finally regain his superior position in the universe. But what's different now is that he actually has a rival in Goku and Vegeta, who can constantly force him to keep pushing more and more, whether that be expanding the Frieza Force or getting himself stronger. So apart from that little addition, in a way, Frieza has basically just had a long journey of getting himself back to the point that he was at in the very beginning, being the charismatic, sadistic, and also polite emperor. Now, does this necessarily make Frieza a good villain, even in modern Dragon Ball standards? Well, I'd say the answer to that question would honestly have to be yesn't. Because it really depends on whether you're looking at it from a pure achievement, popularity, or just the ability to rage bait people on the daily, or maybe what his actual relevance should be in the story at this point, given how far Dragon Ball has actually come since Frieza was first introduced. In my opinion though, with the exception of Resurrection F, I'd say that Frieza is a damn good villain, because he has maintained the most personal connection to the main cast for the longest time, and simultaneously has remained in the story while being entertaining without actually changing himself all that much at all. And yeah, sure, he may have flaws and occasionally might succumb to his own hubris, but can you really blame the guy? He is literally capable of building an entire empire from scratch just because he's low-key goated like that. So honestly, with all these factors taken into consideration, it's kind of hard to say what the future actually holds for Frieza. But what I do know is that I'm likely going to enjoy every second that I see this absolute menace to society on my screen. I do feel like they need to find a conclusive end for his character relatively soon though, because I low-key get the impression that they have no idea what to do with him right now. But that is all. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.